Good evening and welcome to BizNews. I'm Elizabeth Lee together with Tony Lopez.
Good evening, Beth.
Tonight we have for our guest, once again, architect Felino Palafox, who's a world-renowned architect and a very popular man these days.
The Philippines' #1 architect and urban planner.
Yes.
And one of Asia's top, no? Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Beth, for the opportunity to share again.
Yeah, but tonight we want to talk about rebuilding in light of what happened to us, of course, last year with Yolanda. You were recently in Tacloban and the other cities. What is your assessment now, 2 months after the disaster?
I've been there twice. First time was on my own initiative, and the second time with Secretary Ping Lacson. And the first time I was there, and I helped several devastation areas before elsewhere in the world. And the first 27 hours that I was there, that was December 2nd, so 3 weeks after November 8th. And it's 2 months today, 60 days. And I could really feel the pain, the suffering, the death and destruction. But on the upside, I could see the locals, especially the children, the resilience, still smiling. And on my first 27 hours, I met 32 nationalities volunteering, donating. And many of them are my clients, like Chuchi, that Buddhist organization from Taiwan. And are we prepared? We were not prepared. Although the devastation was so great, it's the worst super typhoon on recorded history. I'm not finger pointing, but comparing to our experience in other countries. And usually you start...
We are less prepared.
We're less prepared, and usually the first thing that's done is rescue, recovery, relief, then rehabilitation and reconstruction.
In that order.
In that order, or at least simultaneous, the three ones.
Yes.
And people tell me what happened was we started with the relief, not with the rescue and operations. Like in Aceh, Indonesia, from what, taking lessons from them, on the first hour, they got bulldozers, commanded bulldozers from the government and private sector, and cleared the streets. That's number
For
one.
rescue purposes.
Rescue purposes. And then we are an archipelagic country, islands, and we could not even access. We had to wait for the Americans to light up the airport. And they showed us how to land a ship, the Americans and the Chinese and so on, the Germans, the British. Japanese. And maybe somebody should put a listing of all those who own ships and boats, like the U.S. Navy, all the shipping lines, all the fishing boats of maybe Malabon and Navotas and Cebu, and maybe even the smugglers. The smugglers can land a boat anywhere in our very long coastline. We have the third longest coastline in the world.
Probably.
So maybe lessons to be learned again. And then more recently, the bunk houses. And I'm not accusing anyone, and I admire Secretary Babe Singson when he called me up the other day, admitting to me that he was not made aware of the international standards for shelter for the survivors.
How many bunk houses are slated to be made?
I don't know how many bunk houses, but last December, Friday the 13th, December, I was invited by new rehab czar, Secretary Ping Lacson, and we visited Baybay, D1, Palo, and Tacloban. And I saw the bunk houses in D1, and we were told even by the others, and reportedly even the international agencies, that they are substandard, and they are really substandard.
So what does substandard mean? How big is it?
Substandards, if I relate it to our experience, let's say the houses we designed for Sri Lanka after the Indian Ocean tsunami, they were at least 21 square meters and 3 bedrooms. So gender sensitive. If you don't allow daughters to sleep with their fathers or daughters to sleep with their brothers and grandfathers. So there should be a step, because in calamities and disasters, the worst sufferers are women and children. So we have what we call incremental approach to housing. So 3 bedrooms, I think 21 square meters. And the incremental approach to housing, the house would grow as the income grows. So the more permanent housing would be about 40 plus square meters. And we put kitchen gardens so that everybody can grow their
Can
own
grow their
food,
food.
because they have no more money to grow
Right.
food. And there should be disaster resilient. Because with the bank houses, I think we repeated the same mistakes from what I observed. The first time I flew over Tacloban and Palo, December 2nd, I saw that all the Dos Aguas, the two sloping roof, GI roofing, they were all blown away. The Cuatro Aguas, the four slopes, I think 70% were blown away, but 30% remained.
Mas matibay ang Cuatro Aguas.
Cuatro Aguas.
Bakit?
Yeah, but the mausoleums, like the Chinese cemetery,
Yeah.
they have concrete roof, concrete walls.
Yeah.
They survive. So when I was a student, there was a quotable quote. I was a student of architecture, planning, Harvard, UST, UP, that some countries seem to build monuments for the dead,
Yeah.
but cannot even provide decent housing for the living.
That's the truth.
So that's my reaction when I was flying over. Then, when I saw the bunk houses, that same sentiment keeps coming back.
But June, they're saying that these are temporary housing.
Yeah, but
So therefore, they don't want to use a concrete.
Teka,
Plus
paano
the
difference
costing
sa
is-
design ng Dos Aguas and Cuatro Aguas?
Dos Aguas, your roof is
Aguas means water, eh?
water.
Oh.
Only 2 slopes.
Ah.
Cuatro Aguas, 4 slopes.
Ah,
Because
4 slopes.
the super typhoon 315 to 320 kilometers per hour, it was different directions. O parang washing machine daw. It's like washing machine. And in this country, parang nothing is more permanent than temporary. Look at our informal settlers. They were temporary housing 50 years ago, 50 years ago, 30 years ago. They're still there.
Yeah. So that's
Look-
what you mean.
Look
yeah.
at our government projects when there are bank houses for construction workers.
Yes.
They remain. So you have bank houses beside.
So it's not temporary.
So it's not
really.
temporary.
Yeah.
And supposing we as taxpayers or the donors and volunteers,
Yes.
the same super typhoon happens tonight, and they are not resilient even to fire. 1/4 inch plywood.
Yeah.
They are not well ventilated, and they are not disaster resilient. And even following the guidelines from the president, forget about the international standards. The president said, "Let's build back better."
Yeah.
And I had added in our advocacy, building back better, safer, smarter, and more sustainable.
Okay. How do we do that? But before you answer that, we're going to cut to a short break. We're speaking with architect June Palafox. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So June, minimum standards, what should they be?
Yeah, the minimum standards is, we get the guidelines. It's disaster resilient and also gender sensitive and flexibility of having a kitchen garden and flexibility that the house would grow as the family grows. The house would grow as the income grows.
Ano yun,
So even
Jun?
temporary, it should be disaster resilient.
I mean, Jun, bali yung bank houses, di naalis yun, doon na sila?
In fact,
May option kang ganon, if you are the beneficiary?
They're talking to us now, the government, how we can help them. Let's say maybe combine 2 modules. Because from what I hear, if I heard it right from Secretary Singson, it's admitted that maybe the specifications were not followed, and even their own specifications, it's not according to international standards. And he just learned about it, and he's so professional and humble enough to admit it. And at least, as I said, if you have
So
children
the
with
bank
2
houses
genders,
should have a minimum area pa what?
for me it's about
18 square meters?
21 square
18
meters?
square meters if same gender children.
Same gender.
Only sons
Yeah.
without daughters, only daughters without sons. And then maybe 22, 24 square meters if you have daughters and sons.
Di ba masyadong malaki ang 22, 24 for temporary housing?
In fact,
That's
international
already
standards.
permanent housing.
Yeah, but international
That's the same
standards.
area of the
it's,
condos
some of the
that are
condos,
selling, no?
yeah.
Yeah. In the international standards for housing for survivors, whether refugees of conflict like in Africa,
Yeah.
or the ones we did for Sri Lanka and Indonesia,
Yeah.
it's really, we studied it, 21 square meters.
21.
Two genders. But one gender children, maybe 18 is
21, then the height must be what?
minimum
8
height
feet?
of
7.
2.1 meters, I think. Yeah.
2.1 meters.
Yeah, yung vertical. But preferably you make it also with a mezzanine.
So 6 feet.
Yeah,
6 feet.
Yeah.
6
7
feet.
feet 2 inches, I think.
7 feet 2 inches.
So it's
That's the
better-
door height. 1 foot above door height. So 8 foot 2
8
inches.
feet, oh, yeah.
8 feet 2 inches.
So are you proposing it's better to make it permanent?
Yeah, even if it's temporary, it should be disaster resilient.
Pero yun,
Because we might
doesn't that-
lose more lives again if the disaster happens tonight. Supposing
Yes.
you relocate them today.
Yeah.
Right.
Tonight there's a big fire.
Right.
Tonight there's another super typhoon.
Yes. And you were saying there are fire hazard right
There
now.
are fire hazards. And that will,
And the material that's
2
being
grams,
used is, yeah.
Antony's questions was the minimum standards. If I remember it right, 3.5 square meters per person.
3.5.
If same gender. But different genders, it's like in Japan, no, if I remember the building code, they measure it by tatami, the Japanese mat.
Yes.
Master bedroom is 4.5 tatami. Children's bedroom is 3 tatamis. 1 tatami is 0.9 of a meter by 1.8 meters. And they started that since the time of the ninjas.
Yeah.
So and even for a ninja, that was the requirement. And the Japanese standard is smaller.
Yes.
than,
So 2 square meters per person sa
3.5 square meters.
Sa Japanese.
Japanese, I have
Japanese kasi kung 1.9 by 0.9, that's less than 2 square meters, no?
yeah, I'll verify that point. Yeah, and Japanese standards is
So kung
a bit
21,
more
that
common.
accommodate at the most 6 people, no?
Yeah, 6.
A couple and 4
Yeah,
children.
maybe even the grandparents.
Yeah.
Because we have extended families.
And then the roofing must be
Roofing must be. We're studying now. In fact,
4 aguas.
right now,
Pero kung elongated yung bunkhouse, how can you do 4 aguas? That means you have to elevate the ceiling
You know,
to achieve the
one of
effect.
our structural engineers, Badi Arumin, our structural engineer for the first 5 towers of Rockwell, he called me up yesterday and he told me that if we have to do sloping roof, those aguas, it should be 30 degrees, not this.
Kaya nga
Halos flat.
natataas mo yung ceiling.
It should be about
to
minimum
achieve
30 degrees.
the 4 aguas effect.
Yeah, that's what he called me up from the hospital. He was having chemotherapy, and he called me up. And we have volunteers. I got an email from my alma mater, Harvard Graduate School of Design. They're sending a team here to help us design. My
Ganon.
company, Palafox Associates, our architects, engineers, planners, are all working together, and they learn about it. The contractors from all over the world.
Saka 4 aguas,
They want to help us.
you create loopholes for leakage.
Yeah, for me better na kung
Hindi isang straight siya kasi.
concreto.
Concrete.
Just like
para
there was a super typhoon in Guam 1974. And Guam government, they got Filipino architects, engineers, contractors
they did,
to help them. And they changed their building code. And flat roof na lang. Maybe slope it a little bit so it still drains. And you can even put a green roof, green vegetable garden on your roof. Yeah. So now, the crisis created an opportunity to do things better.
Right.
But the opportunity will not always be there. And our country is getting known to be now. We get all the opportunities, but we miss all the opportunities.
Yeah.
So this opportunity to good planning, good governance is there.
Kasi sayang yung attention given by CNN, ano?
Yeah.
That's the one that triggers the international
There's
interest.
even like maybe we should immediately
And
now
assistance.
fix the airport.
Yeah.
Because that's the first impression.
Yes.
And the investors must first be satisfied tourists before becoming an investor.
Yeah.
And I saw disaster tourism when I was there.
Yeah, Thailand.
So many
Very good,
nationalities. Maybe we could also talk about disaster tourism, including when there are volcanic eruptions in Legazpi or Taal. Let's be prepared for disaster tourism because as in BizNews Asia's report, we are the third most vulnerable country in the world in disasters, and we have given government and private sector 100
Actually,
plus
we should be the
recommendations.
number one kasi the first two are just small island states.
Yeah. And we should address the 18 hazards before they become disasters. And Business Asia had published all our 100 recommendations through urban planning, architecture, engineering, and the other sciences.
And of those recommendations,
I think about 5 of the 100 is being implemented, like Project NOAA, hazard mapping, but I think they're limited to flooding only. And there are 18 disasters. The others is the fault finding by pillbox, and that's another one. But we should recognize, like, we help also make recommendations for Zamboanga. That was a man-made disaster.
Zamboanga, 10,000 homes, no?
Yeah.
Destroyed, no?
And also, it's good we got reminded of the other disaster areas, because people have reminded me, especially some people from the foreign chambers and foreign scientists, that in our constitution, I was not even aware of it, that everybody must be treated equitably. So why now only Yolanda victims? How about Ondoy, Sendong, Pablo, Zamboanga, Bohol earthquake? They should be equitably treated, because even Ondoy, the victims of Ondoy, the Laguna Lake shore of victims of flooding, which every year, and apparently there's a perception that nobody's paying much attention for them.
Hindi sila na-feature sa CNN.
Yeah, but potentially, yes. Then maybe the responsible media may want to pick that up if CNN did not pick it up.
right? Okay, we're going to continue this discussion. We'll be right back. You're watching BizNews. Welcome back. So, June, the problems are just adding up. How do we just really hit the low-hanging fruit?
Yes, Somenay was asked by Secretary Ping Lacson to help him one day before he accepted the role as rehab czar.
Yes.
And he asked me and Professor Danny Antonio, my former colleague at Ayala, a professor in management. We told him that the tasks are daunting, challenging, but doable. If all of us Filipinos, with the international community and the private sector, work together. And there were 3 overarching guidelines that I put forward, or we agreed together. 1, no band-aid solutions. So whether it's immediate action, short-term, medium-term, long-term, it should be disaster resilient and building back better, smarter, safer, and more sustainable. And with transparency, accountability, and good governance, and no corruption. And maybe that's why our passion on those overarching guidelines, sometimes we get misunderstood of accusing corruption to others, although that's not...
So how do you do it now with, for example, just the bunkhouses?
The bunkhouses...
Jun, you visited 4 places, di ba?
Yeah.
Palo, Tacloban, Guian. What's the 4th one? Tolosa?
Guian, Baybay, Palo,
Yung Baybay,
and Tacloban.
What is your inventory of how many bunkhouses are needed?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers because
But how many families must be
I saw
housed?
closely only the one in Giwan.
Giwan.
Closely.
According to the
the others I haven't seen
NDRC,
it.
1.1 million houses were washed away or destroyed.
Yeah, about 16 million people.
Alam, 16
million people. And that's huge because the population of Singapore is only 5 million. So more than 3 Singapores. And thanks to the private sector and the international community, because I was expecting that we will have a rehab czar, not a coordinator.
16 million is equivalent to 3 million houses.
Yeah, divided by 5. So 3 million houses. And plus government buildings, schools, and so on.
So minimum siguro we need 1 million houses immediately,
Yeah,
no?
immediately.
And the bank houses will be the answer to that.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
How many
we have to
families
agree-
per bank house ba?
We have to agree to disagree.
Oh.
I don't believe bank houses is the solution. We should have
ganun.
more decent housing for the survivors.
Ba't hindi na lang dumiretso sa housing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Kesa
management
bank
is good.
house.
That's right.
And the private sector
You
is
spend
willing
about
to
the
help.
same, di ba?
Even the private sector, they're willing
Yeah.
to help now, provided it's very well designed.
Yeah.
Because what's happening now, maybe because of the urgency,
Yeah.
it's being designed allegedly by contractors and reportedly with some influence from some
Kasi
politicians.
ongoing construction
So-
rate is what? So kung 20 square meters times 15,000, ilan yun? 300,000 pesos?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Oh,
Thereabouts.
300,000
And
pesos.
if we do
If you do it by bank house, ilan?
or modular
180,000?
design
Oh.
and you compute 3 million units,
Oh.
it becomes cheaper.
Ayun.
Mass production.
Oh.
And maybe just by the, let's say, we're designing some now, and several contractors, both local and international, have approached us. They will do a precasting of
Yeah.
our designs
Yeah,
for
so why-
livable shelters for the
So why
survivors.
don't
So is that being
why don't
done?
we
Why-
commission a factory to produce the
Yeah,
walls?
they're volunteers now.
The walls.
They're volunteers.
Oh.
In fact, somebody wants to
Jackville,
donate
ano,
solar
Pacific,
panels
yan,
for
no?
our
Yeah.
projects.
Oh.
Some suppliers, they want to donate even tiles and construction materials. They just want to make sure it goes to the beneficiary.
Right.
Because somebody even called me up. She donated 200 solar panels.
200, ha?
Oh yeah, and when she asked for what happened, they say she was told it was hijacked. Then I told her,
Ganun lang kasimple yan?
yeah, it disappeared. And that's why she's talking to me now. And I told, can you testify? She refused to testify because she has contracts with government.
Who got the panels?
I'm not at liberty to mention the government
One panel,
agency.
one house sana?
Yes. To collect. And I don't know how many situations. That was before Lacson came in. That's why
Kasi medyo complicated mag-install ng solar panel, eh.
Yeah,
You
so
have to need a
now
wiring
is
system, ganyan.
that company, because they are also our suppliers in some of our building projects that we're the architect, they're willing to donate, but they want to make sure now it goes to the beneficiary.
Yeah.
So I'm talking now to there are 500 LGUs that were affected just for Yolanda.
500 towns, no?
Oh, so how many barangays? So with the December 30, it was a public holiday. And Secretary Lacson hosted a forum which we helped organize at AIM, December 30. We're expecting 200, 430 arrived.
400.
Wanting to help. Architects, planners,
wonderful.
engineers, management experts, even scientists from abroad. They were with us.
So how do we harness all this
Yeah,
and actually
we're part of our
implement?
Yeah, part of our, because the PAR, the Presidential Assistance Office for Reconstruction and Rehabilitation, they don't have an office yet. They need 2 weeks more.
It needs a bank house itself.
So we are
Diba, no?
so we are I'm absorbing many of these recommendations from all over the world, and I don't call it pro bono. I call it patriotic architecture, patriotic philanthropy, or urban planning for humanity. But there's a limit for what I can afford. So I'm asking all my fellow planners, fellow architects to help also.
Diba?
I'm not the Department of Social Welfare.
Going back to the bank houses, kung ayaw nila single detached houses, ilan talagang units ang kailangan
they
gawin?
can still be attached houses.
So the objective is to house initially 1 million families?
Yeah, we'll have to talk. We still have to.
So 1 million families times 10 square meters?
Yeah.
Ganun ba yan?
Or times 22 square meters at least.
Hindi, parang target nila 10 square meters
Less
lang.
pa
Sabi
eh.
mo, 8
Maybe
lang. Eh.
for
less, 8 something.
9 square meters for dinks. Dual income households without kids. Dinks. Dual income with
There's
no
no
kids.
Filipino family without kids because the average size of a family now is 5.5.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, it's 7 with the grandparents. With 2 sets of grandparents, that's 9. So
my.
the international standards, 3.5 square meters per person. But if you have to be gender sensitive, at least 3 bedrooms.
So based on 10 per square meters and 1 million families, you need about 10 million square meters of housing.
Yeah.
At 15,000 ba yan?
They tell me I have to verify. No? Some people say I mean 16,000, but if you do mass production, it can go down.
It should.
Okay,
It should.
Another 10
volume
lang,
discount.
10,
Yeah.
So aren't you
10.
going to do the precast walls?
Where my office is talking to several contractors,
So
even
magkano yan?
contractors from abroad.
Easily 100 billion pesos just to build the bunk houses.
Yeah. In fact, right now, our guesstimate, without the benefit of detailed planning, it's we need to build back better, $10 billion minimum.
10 billion, that's 440 billion.
Yes. There are some comments, again, it's not coming from me.
Yeah.
1 year without corruption, we can afford it.
Yeah, we can because 40%
Zero corruption for 1 year.
40% of the budget is corruption. Eh?
All right, we're going to continue this discussion. We'll be right back. You're watching BizNews.
So, Architect John Palafox, in terms of specifics, how many bunk houses are we really trying to build?
Yeah, I don't have the exact figures.
Okay.
I'll verify it, and we do our calculation. A lot of people ask me for numbers, but I said I'm only an architect, environmental planner, urban planner. I have to talk to our structural engineers and to our.
Kasi ako estimate ko, 1 million families at the minimum.
At 10
per square meter, that's 10 million square meters.
Yeah.
If you use your standards, 20 million
Yeah.
per square meter,
Yeah.
multiply by 15,000.
Yeah.
So that's easily 300 billion pesos.
Yes.
On the housing alone.
Yeah.
Wala pa yung mga facilities,
Yeah, the infrastructure.
chapel, water system, sewerage, electrical system, gano'n.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Especially with the building back better.
Oh.
So building back better, the green urbanism, green architecture
Yeah.
communities we do elsewhere in the world, even the road cross section.
Di ba, how do you ensure that you are building back better?
Yeah, like road road utilities, no?
Oh.
All the electrical utility lines
Should
should
be
be
underground.
underground.
Yeah.
And then the cross section of roads, 1/3 for tree planting and landscaping, 1/3 for pedestrians
Yeah.
and vehicles, 1/3 for
Then,
moving traffic vehicles. We should. That's the
So,
best
dyan
practice.
na-identify na ba yung mga areas where to build the housing?
Wala pang budget for planning eh.
Wala.
Wala. Everything is
So,
for
nothing
contractors.
moving, ganyan
so
ba?
there,
Nothing
there are,
moving?
There are budgets for contractors.
Saan nila ginagawa yung bunk houses? Bahala ka na sa sarili mo.
Yeah,
Hanap ka ng
that-
bakanting
that-
lote.
because-
I read something that the economic zones will be used for bank housing.
Yes, and
Yeah, that means, but you drive away the investors.
yes, everything will be considered. Like all that, if we do the planning,
Yeah.
it should be comprehensive in terms of area.
Who's doing
The
the
whole
planning?
area.
Ikaw ba yan? O
I was
DPWH?
asked to volunteer, but because right now in government, NEDA is economic planning.
Ganun.
Infrastructure planning is public
So, bali,
works. Housing is
Walang
NHA.
office na that says
Wala, kasi-
the buck stops here, gano'n?
Kasi before, when the 2 years I worked for government to pay back my UN scholarship sa UP, 75 to 77, I worked in 2 years with Secretary David Consunhi.
Yeah.
He had a planning and project development office
Yeah.
to put in infrastructure terms and locational terms all the economic plans. Because economic plans is off the ground.
Yeah.
So
Macro.
bring them to the locational. Then you had the human settlements. So emphasis is human settlements. So then the Office of the President of UP, Odi Corpus, they were all working together. And then Jerry Sikat. of
So,
NEDA.
synchronized. Jerry
I think
Sikat at NEDA.
Yeah, what's happening now, it's with all due respect, I think we have, I think it was mentioned also by your other interviewees, we have silos.
Silos yung ginamit
And
yung
then
metaphor.
I describe it as we have vertical elevators
Yeah.
without the floors.
Yeah.
So hopefully
So, kanya-kanyang hirit
with
yan.
Ping Lacson, he will connect the floors, interconnect the elevators with the floors.
Can he do it?
I don't know about his limitation because his coordination and
Assistant lang siya
committee
Presidential assistant.
in a emergency case, it doesn't work because you don't have time to plead and hold hands. So I wish he were appointed as primus inter pares when it comes to rehabilitation and
Parang
reconstruction.
executive secretary
Because
for
he will be
reconstruction,
requesting for funds from the different departments controlled by other secretaries. That's why he's now depending also on the private sector. Because if you look at our country, where there's more private sector participation, like Makati, the infrastructure is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Muntinlupa, the infrastructure is more better. Santa Rosa, Laguna, infrastructure is better. Where there's very active private sector participation.
Right.
But if you leave it to government, again with due respect, it's a different standard. Yeah.
Pero the president is an aki, no?
It's now is the time really that sana the building back better is not just another slogan.
Yeah.
I hope we all walk the
And
talk.
who is doing all of this in terms of practical design and execution?
Because I think the
Baliwala.
presidential assistance for rehab and
Halimbawa ako,
reconstruction.
Jun, may hardware ako. Gusto ko mag-donate ng kahoy. O I have a lumber yard.
Yeah.
Sino ang tatawagan ko?
Yeah. Right now is Secretary Ping Lacson with Undersecretary Danny Antonio, but at the moment, they are depending on me and maybe other volunteers.
But,
But
halimbawa, sabi
as a-
ni Ping Lacson, ni Secretary Ping Lacson, we need 20 million square meters of housing. Tapos, 20 million will require how many board feet?
Yes.
Or million board feet
Yeah.
of wood?
May ginawa siya, parang
Or
ginagawa
how
sila.
many
parang-
pieces of
yeah.
GI sheets
Yeah.
na 8 feet ang haba? Oh,
Yeah. The discussion with the private sector, parang may bridal registry.
oh yan.
These
May
are the
ganon.
needs list and wants list of the
So, sasagutin
different
mo yun.
LGUs.
Sasagutin mo.
So the 500 LGUs mayors and they should
Sasubmit
send,
sila ng needs
submit
nila.
to their office yung needs sila. Like
Shopping
at one time,
list, wish list.
I was talking to the Tacloban mayor. First time I met him,
Alfred
Romualdez, and I asked him, "What's your immediate need right now?" And among many others, what stuck to my mind, because I was reluctant to eat meat,
Yeah.
is slaughterhouse.
Ganon.
Because they don't have slaughterhouse. So you don't know if you eat something in Tacloban, if the meat is
malasong ka.
double dead. And there's so many tourists in Tacloban right now.
ganon?
So it might become a public health issue. In other words, public health. There's so many mosquitoes, so many flies.
Ganon.
And you can smell the stench of death.
Yeah.
And maybe
Tingin ko nga, he needs a filing cabinet immediately.
then
Kasi he has no office eh.
yeah, they are crippled. They need help. And so is Palo. Palo is the center of the Catholic Church. So the bishop and the mayor have been talking to me, and we're helping her look for a 10-hectare property where we can design a decent shelter for the survivors, where it's walkable, bikeable, sustainable. With
Ba't di na lang gawin yung ganun yun eh? Diba, Ayala Land. Oh, ito sa'yo, adapt a town.
Ganong ginawa ni Secretary Ping Lacson with yung pledging session nung January 7 ba sa Soler. And I heard if 24 areas were priorities, 13 areas were already taken by big business.
Sponsors,
According to Secretary Lacson and Undersecretary Antonio.
All right, we're going to cut to a short break. You're watching BizNews. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So, June, just describe really quickly, what is a disaster tourism?
Disaster tourism is when there are world-class, if I may, disasters. You attract a lot of tourists. And look what
Because
happened in
there's a curiosity factor.
Curiosity.
Curiosity
And we're not
factor.
even ready for to accommodate them.
The first to do that was Pinatubo, no?
Yeah, Pinatubo, we had that also. And maybe there are not enough accommodations like hotels.
It's the closest thing to getting to an African safari.
Yes,
Diba?
and so maybe
Because this is also made by nature. Eh?
both the local and national government and provincial may want to certify homestay programs, provided the toilets are clean, the bedrooms are clean, and so on, and certify them now and identify. Maybe it can be done barangay by barangay, city by city, municipality, and province by province. And it's an opportunity again that we keep
it's a one
missing out.
positive out of a
Missing
negative.
out, because
yeah.
what
Kasi nga
happened
doon nga sa Belgium, batang umiihi, ginawang tourist spot. Monumento ng batang umiihi. Buisit.
Even you
Diba?
go to Italy, may
diba?
train towards Mount Vesuvius ba yun?
Mount Vesuvius.
This was a big eruption and tourist attraction. You go to Hawaii, sabi nila, the tsunami happened here and look at that house affected by tsunami and it may happen anytime again. And they tell that to the
Hiroshima. That's a disaster tourism, diba?
And I met the mayor of Hiroshima.
Nagasaki, ganon.
And it's a disaster tourism.
Sabi nila, in this place,
people
no
were
plant
killed.
can be planted and grow.
Yeah.
It did in less than 5 years. Parang ganon, no?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's such a thing now as disaster tourism. And
See,
so
one of
Tony
the-
have been highlighting in his magazine,
Yeah.
BizNews Asia, it's we are the third most vulnerable
Most
country
vulnerable.
in the world. So it creates an opportunity again.
Kasi even the pedestrian curiosity seeker and the experts would like to come, di ba?
Yeah.
They want to learn firsthand.
And
diba?
one thing that when it
Meron
comes
nga
to...
akong na-meet na visitor sa Tacloban. He was very happy na nakapaghukay siya ng isang bangkay. Ganon yung disaster.
Yeah.
Oh.
In fact, many young architects and young planners have approached me if they can volunteer, because I gave some talks in the United Architects of the Philippines and the Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners, of which I'm the president now. I told them that participating now in this disaster rehab will be your best calling card.
Yeah, best calling card.
And then they asked me if they volunteer, can I certify them? And I will.
Parang sundalo ka, sabi mo, galing ka sa Iraq, Afghanistan, ganyan.
Yeah.
Diba? Syria. Oh.
Yeah. And then the foreigners
And you earn the stripes for
like
it.
students at the Harvard School of Design. These are graduate students, so they're already professionals. They want to come in and work with us, and not just them. Several schools all over the world. And
So what can you look forward to
Kasi
now?
with global
this?
warming, di ba, and all kinds of inventions that are destructive, this is a century of disasters.
in fact, one of my first interviews after November 8 was BBC London, and they asked me what are my thoughts, and I said maybe we can make Tacloban as a global center for climate change, because it may have been
And resiliency.
Resiliency may have been the first really sufferer,
So
victim of climate change.
It can be a benchmark also.
It can be a
right?
benchmark.
Yes.
And now Tacloban is the poster boy for disasters.
Poster town.
Poster town.
Poster
Poster town.
All right, we wish you more luck, Architect June Palafox.
Congratulations, June, for doing so patriotic pro bono work.
Oh,
for
they
our
call it pro
country,
bono because I'm deriving psychological income out of it.
They call it psychic income.
And we should
And so are you.
And we should fight truth decay.
Yeah, truth
Yeah,
decay,
truth
because
decay,
maybe if I may also, because there was a campaign promise that the Whistleblowers Protection Act and Freedom of Access to
FOI.
Information were top priorities. Until now, they are not.
Yeah.
And I have been a whistleblower, and I get harassment myself.
Yeah.
In fact, tomorrow I have a hearing again for telling the truth. I have a libel case for telling the truth.
That's why we have to continue to fight truth decay.
Yeah.
More power to you, June.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You watch another episode of BizNews. I'm Elizabeth Lee, together with Tony Lopez. See us every Monday at 7 p.m. We'll see you again next week. Have a good night and God bless. Thanks for joining us.